This Halloween, we're picking up where we left off with F.E.A.R and continuing on with F.E.A.R Extraction Point, the expansion pack that continues the story of the original game. This came out in 2006, made by Timegate Studios.
Been able to get through to anyone since the explosion. What was that sound?
And of course, F.E.A.R Extraction Point is a horror FPS with slow motion and amazing gameplay, but if you didn't know that, you should probably watch my original F.E.A.R review. I talk about a lot of basic or specific things that I won't talk about in this video, and I guess it's been tradition to review F.E.A.R on Halloween. But that's for a good reason. I don't normally play spooky games, and F.E.A.R is a good mix of horror and shooting, and the slow motion definitely helps prevent you from getting too spooked. I'm sure you'll notice I use it as much as possible during combat. I mean, can you blame me? Okay, I admit I play a little too safe, but it is a horror game too, so cut me some slack. But luckily a lot of it is combat, really good combat. The original F.E.A.R already had such good gameplay and combat, and F.E.A.R Extraction Point takes advantage of this. Throughout the game, you'll kill enemies in well thought out areas and arenas. You get to play with a lot of good weapons and some new weapons like a minigun, a laser gun, and these cool little deployable turrets that are good for distracting enemies. And it's a pretty fun gameplay loop wrecking these stupid replica soldiers, then dealing with Paxton Fettel and seeing what Alma's up to. I'm way more into the gameplay than the story, but I know that Paxton should be dead and he's being pretty lame right now. But at least it seems like Alma isn't being so lame anymore. And is it me, or she's looking kinda... never mind. She still scares the shit out of me. But things get a little interesting with Alma, but we still got problems with Paxton. He's always been a douchebag. Well, luckily that's why we're trying to get the hell out of here, and it's called Extraction Point. Like, I don't want to be here. There's replica soldiers everywhere and it's spooky as hell. There's also this big ass explosion in the beginning, so it feels pretty apocalyptic. And I don't play this game often, so the spooky parts can still make me tense even if I might expect it. I'm sure you can tell by my reactions and some of my mouse movements. There's other aspects like good sound design and not knowing what's next. I'm sure it hits harder the first time you play it like most horror games, but it's still entertaining. I haven't played Extraction Point since the end of 2019 and it still felt pretty new. I think I remember the original F.E.A.R more because it's the main part of the series everyone talks about, but a lot of people prefer Extraction Point and even say it's better. To be honest, I can see where they're coming from. This expansion builds off the original game so well that some would argue that it's better. I definitely want to see some comments about that, but this is back when expansions really had to live up to the original game, or at least do something unique.
Is it everywhere? Is anyone still out there? Anyone but them, I mean.
Extraction Point improves in many ways and a lot of people like the new areas and combat. Apparently the horror is outdated and doesn't scare you anymore, but I still think it's good enough and paces itself pretty well.
This is not right.
Like, it doesn't make me shit myself, but it can make me tense or feel some type of way. Especially that asylum area towards the end. Like Chef's Kiss masterpiece, you have to cherish moments like this. Even if you don't find it scary, it's at least entertaining and keeps the story going. But I can see why the gameplay steals the show. It's really good and satisfying. I played on high difficulty, which is the second hardest, and sometimes I feel like I should play on the hardest difficulty. Especially with the way I play pretty cautiously and like to explore, but you won't have to look as hard for your permanent health and reflex upgrades in Extraction Point, as well as those phone calls. It's a little more straightforward. Which is nice, because there's a fair amount of enemies and bosses. I actually died a few times, which surprised me. I really try my hardest not to die, but some of these areas were genuinely difficult, and I respect that. It's definitely a roller coaster ride going through that amazing combat and pacing it with the horror sections in a span of about 3 to 6 hours. Well, depending on how you play. It took me about 4.5 hours to beat this expansion.
Careful. I've got a bad feeling about this. What were they trying to keep out? I'm not exactly burning with curiosity about what's on the other side, are you? Man, this is not right. Not good.
There's 6 intervals and certain ones take longer than others, so with all these levels in a short amount of time, I was never bored. This is a top tier expansion that does what it's supposed to do. But that doesn't mean it's without its faults playing it this many years later. Let's get some things out of the way, like you definitely can't play multiplayer, which would have been cool. Maybe a remaster can fix that. And I personally had to change my keybinds because a few things didn't feel natural. Also, the resolution is weird when you record, so other content creators might have to fix this like I am, which is no big deal. But something that is a big deal is some of the technical problems you might have to deal with because of this old ass game. I think it might have something to do with Logitech and modern hardware, but this game would crash like every 2 minutes. Well, it wouldn't crash, it would lag so bad that I instantly had to save and quit. But I don't think this would be as bad for you because I was recording and I think that did make it worse. Luckily there is a fix, and I'm not gonna lie, I was very hesitant about the solution because you have to download something, but everything was pointing in this direction. I'll leave a link in the description. So I went from lagging every 2 minutes to lagging every 10 minutes. Again, I think it was because I was recording and maybe I should have tested things out like lowering my graphics settings, but it still got the job done. And something that might be considered a criticism to a F.E.A.R enthusiast out there is that Extraction Point isn't canon to the original series, and that can be considered a shame if you compare this to F.E.A.R 2.
He's here. Fettle. Stay away from me.
I'm not going to do anything to you.
Like, I guess F.E.A.R 2 exists, so none of this matters, or maybe it's like a side mission or something. Either way, every F.E.A.R fan can tell you that this is better than F.E.A.R 2. Even though Extraction Point is similar to F.E.A.R 1 on a surface level, it improves in a lot of ways that makes it worthy. Personally, I think it'd be cool if we got a remaster for these older F.E.A.R games, but I think Extraction Point holds up even if that does happen. I think it's a must play for anyone who enjoys the original F.E.A.R because that and Extraction Point are the peak of the series.
It's locked, dumbass. Oh, hi. I, didn't know it was you. Listen, you owe me. You know that, right? You wait right there. I'll come around and open the door. You using the grenade launcher? No, wait, I want the plasma rifle. How about the minigun? No? Ooh. Goodbye.
Too bad classics can get lost to time, but at least you can download that fix if you need to. It's also kinda weird how this game is bundled with the rest of the series on Steam, but you should just get a key from a site that you trust because it's cheaper. I know it's not always a simple answer, but with all things considered, I think F.E.A.R Extraction Point is still worth playing. I think it should be mandatory that you play this if you play the original F.E.A.R. To me, they're such a good combo.
You still don't know, do you? What you are. Why you're here. You will be a god among men.
Like, I'm glad I upload these games on Halloween and have a reason to play them, but I'm not sure I'll be saying the same thing when I play the other expansion pack for F.E.A.R called Perseus Mandate. That's the second and final expansion pack for F.E.A.R. I personally don't remember disliking it as much as everyone else, but I'll take another look and review it. You guys actually like these F.E.A.R videos more than I thought. You should drop a comment telling me your favorite F.E.A.R game or maybe your top 3. I'd also appreciate a like if you enjoyed the video, but you just watching is more than enough. It's always fun going back in time to enjoy F.E.A.R in its peak. I hope I find another excuse to play it in the future, or we get something like a new game or a remaster. But until then, or even after that happens, or if it ever happens, I still think F.E.A.R Extraction Point is still worth playing. Happy Halloween. Peace.
They tried to bury their sins, but instead planted the seeds of their doom. They will die. All of them.